And we're live from the lovely Cotton Exchange Plaza in Flora, Mississippi, on the Lindsey Beckham Show. Here, and I'm obviously not Lindsey Beckham, y'all. I'm Sean Yurtcron. I'm here on your Friday lunch hour. Hopefully, you're getting out of work early today, and you can leave after this. But stay tuned for we got some really interesting topics that happened today in the last couple of days. Actually, Lindsay will not be here today. She is under the weather, and so you will not get your school choice fixed today. And that's those aren't the issues that I know really anything about, but I think they're pretty well covered on this hour. So I think she's informed the public pretty good, and they're very important. I like to tease her a little bit about it, but yeah, it's a very important issue, and I know it's been hotly debated. But don't call in and ask me about it because I don't really know. I just know what she tells me, so which is a lot of things. Anyway, I was just listening to the news hour when I walked in here, and there has been these bomb threats, I guess, at the Madison County schools the last few days, which have been pretty terrible. And apparently, what I heard, I think it's going around. Like there's a lot of calls around the country, so hopefully they'll catch somebody here shortly and everybody can feel safer. But it's got to be a pretty terrifying thing. Lindsay had told me that that her kids were really scared, just like everybody else's, and I can just imagine the horror that goes through parents' minds during something as crazy as that. I mean, we live in a scary world these days. I mean, I'm 46, and back when I was in high school, that wasn't something that you really thought about. School shootings or bombings and stuff. That didn't. I remember I graduated in 97, and I think it was a year later, or 2 years later, or maybe a year later, where the Pearl School shooting happened, and that's kind of when everything got kicked off. And then Columbine happened in 1999. And here we are over 25 years later, stuck in this era of where kids and parents are, fearful about going to school. And that's a horrible thing. And I hate that. I wish we could turn back the clock and go back to when, everybody felt safe doing something that seems to be about the best thing you can do when you're a kid: get educated, learn things, and you should feel safe in that environment. But unfortunately, that's just not the case these days. And we have a lot of nutbags out there. So anyway, well, there is some interesting things happened this morning. I was prepared to talk about an article that Jerry Mitchell had released yesterday, which was about the Medgar Evers home, which is over off of Medgar Evers Avenue, obviously, the place where Medgar Evers was shot by Byron Dale Beckwith in June of 1963, has become a National Historic Landmark now. And there's brochures there that list refer to Byron Dale Beckwith as a racist killer, which in fact he absolutely was. Well, the Park Service had wanted to remove the word racist off those brochures, and there was a big stink about that. And Jerry wrote an article yesterday. And then I noticed this morning that apparently the Park Service now has backtracked on that and said they only wanted to replace outdated brochures, which sounds a lot to me like they got called out and everybody was like, wait a second, that Byron Dale Beckwith is not a racist. I mean, that's like saying Hitler didn't really like Jews. I mean, he didn't hate Jews. So a little ridiculous there. But so that was a big stink. But there was some breaking kind of news this morning that I saw first, and it was so there is according to NBC News, President Trump had shared a racist video depicting the Obamas as apes. And yes, as apes. And what it is that President Trump finally he's actually removed the True Social video that he posted late Thursday night, late last night, about former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama as apes. So it was like their heads on ape bodies, and it was part of a Lion King thing where I think President Trump maybe Mufasa. I didn't get to see the whole thing, and the rest of the Democrats are different animals throughout the video. But it's got President Obama and Michelle Obama as apes. And the White House put out a statement saying, well, it was other Democrats were other animals. So, we weren't really trying to say that, that Obama's, this was not like meant to be a racist thing, but I don't know how you could have took it any other way than what it looks like. And you would think like, okay, well, if we're going to put the Democrats' bodies on animals, maybe not put the black people on the apes. That just seemed pretty obvious to me that you wouldn't do that, but that's what happened. So that has gone viral all over the internet and today. And finally, President Trump decided to take it down. He didn't initially. It got so bad where Tim Scott, who's a Republican senator from South Carolina, who's been a big Trump supporter, and he's I think he's the only black Republican in the Senate. said that, and I quote, "This is the most racist thing I've seen from this White House." And that's Tim Scott coming out there with that, which is basically, Tim Scott is like Wayne Brady playing a senator. I mean, that's the easiest way I could say it. He comes across as what's the word here I'd use? Less than black for a black guy. And he was even against it. He said this is just horrible. So there has been massive outrage on that going on the internet all morning, and so I caught up on that. And I was going to have Lindsey here, and we were going to talk about how that all just kind of relates to this Medgar Evers stuff, how that relates to the Confederate monuments, which we had a thing here in Brandon recently talking about. There was a big hotly debate about if they should remove or move the Confederate monument in downtown Brandon. And I started thinking about, somebody actually made a post on my Facebook feed about this yesterday, and it was a good point. Where does it come the line? Where does the line draw on when we're talking about history? And basically he brought up Confederate monuments, and I thought that was a good point. To me, removing the Confederate monuments and removing racists from Byron Dale Beckwith are actually kind of a similar thing. And I know that kind of might sound crazy to some people, but what you're doing in effect is editing history. That's just what you're doing. You're editing it to a way that you'd like it to look. And history just doesn't look the way we want it to look. There's a lot of bad parts about it. I mean, the good part is that we can see what we did in the past and say, hey, we don't need to do that again. And that's a good part about knowing our history, I think. I've always been against removing the Confederate monuments. I know that's funny because I'm on the left. You think I'd want that, but I mean, that's part of our history, and people need to see that. They need to see this is what happened in the past, and let's not do that again. Just like with Byron Dale Beckwith, I mean, we don't need to remove the word race. He said he was a racist. Byron Dale Beckwith. He wasn't labeled by a historian or the government. You can watch interviews with him. He's very loud and proud about being a Klansman, about being a racist, hating black people, thinking that white people are the dominant race in the world, and that basically you can just kill black people. He was fine with that, obviously, considering he killed Medgar Evers. This is an ugly part of our history, but it's a real part of our history that happened. And we're not doing any future generations favors by attempting to clean that up. Whether we're talking about whether somebody was a racist killer or whether there's a Confederate monument. I mean, and liberals, like I said, liberals are guilty of this too on the left, where like, let's get rid of this monument. Let's get rid of, like, let's change the name of a base or whatever. Like, I just don't know that that's necessarily the best strategy when we're talking about accepting what history is. And I know I guess, on the left, the argument would be, well, they're honoring those people by doing that. Well, I mean, I think it's also explaining, like, this was named after this person because this is what happened in our history. And now we know about it. Just like the Confederate monument in downtown Brandon. I think, yeah, okay, you could look at it like, yes, it honors Confederate veterans, which that's another issue entirely. Like, the guys that were fighting for the Confederacy weren't slave owners. I mean, I think people just fail to realize that they were kind of the guys that got SOL'd, if you know what I mean. I mean, the rich people were just saying, hey, you need to go to war and fight for us. I mean, they weren't fighting for slaves. I'm just being honest, they're not. I mean, they just weren't, because they were just poor guys fighting in the military. I usually take my what's called a rucksack, and I was in the Marine Corps, and so I have a old Alice pack, and I throw weights in it, and I walk, and I go to the park in Vicksburg all the time, and I walk around the whole park with a bunch of weights, which sounds crazy and very brutal. I don't know if anybody really enjoys it, but I like it. And I just look at all the stuff out there, and I think about both sides, the Union and the Confederacy, and what these people died for. And it was a lot of people that, majority of them, didn't know what they were. They were just kind of forced into it. So I think, you kind of have to look at history from a broader lens than just saying, oh, the South was just a bunch of racists. Now, there were, and there obviously were fighting for a bad cause, which was slavery, but not everybody that, went to that war was a plantation owner. They just weren't. So I think that's part of history we have to learn too. And we have to learn also, why Mississippi itself succeeded from the Union. You can go to the succession document, and it clearly says because of slavery. I mean, it's written, I'm paraphrasing, but it's written in the first couple sentences. They say why they succeeded from the Union. So I always say, don't ask us, ask them, because they told you why they did it. But so I think we have to understand history in all those contexts. The good, the bad, the reality of it, the portions where I'm talking about, like, every Confederate soldier was not some bad guy, where where just because you're saying someone was a racist killer doesn't make everybody else a racist. Byron De La Beckwith was a racist killer. There were a lot of racist killers in the 1960s during the civil rights movement. And that's just a reality. The people that killed Emmett Till, like those things happen in our state, and we just have to accept it. Just like we have to accept that the Civil War was a big part of this state's history. And as much whitewashing as we do of this, it's never going to go away. What you're going to do is you're going to have future generations that are not informed of these things, that don't know about them, and then they're doomed to repeat these kinds of mistakes if they're not educated about it. And that to me is just quite a shame. And I feel like, under a Democratic administration, they're doing it the other way. They're trying to wash away what they deem to be things that are racist. And then now we've got the Trump administration who is trying to wash away anybody being called a racist whatsoever. And that's the problem with our politics. What we do is we go to extremes on both sides every time. We have last 4 years, or 5 years ago, we had a huge leftward swing, and it went so far to the left. So far to the left, we're talking about guys becoming girls and playing in girls' sports. Now, if you told any of us that 20 years ago, and again, I'm on the left, it sounds ridiculous. I mean, it sounds ridiculous today, but that's how far left it went. And then there was a huge backlash in the country where independents also voted with Republicans, and President Trump won overwhelmingly. Now you're seeing another backlash swinging towards the left in response to what's happened in Minnesota and other events like that, because things get pushed now. They're pushing too far to the right, and there's a backlash. And I think we're probably going to see that in November, the results of that backlash. And I think, the problem is the extremes take up our politics. They always do. We don't ever sit down and realize that, we have a lot more that we agree on than we disagree on. We don't ever do that. We just run to the extremes of both parties, both sides, political ideologies. And I think that's a lot of reasons why not much gets done. And we don't realize that most Americans are somewhere in the middle, and they think pretty rationally that things that the extremes think aren't what they want. And now I think President Trump has become guilty of what President Biden was guilty of, not paying attention to that at all, just looking at what his extreme faction was. And a good example of that is what, this meme. I mean, you had to think somebody in the White House was like, this is going to piss off a lot of people, and it should. I mean, it should. I mean, if you think this is okay, you're just wrong, because it's not. I mean, I think I put it up earlier, and many friends of mine that are huge Trump supporters are like, wait a second, this ain't cool. And it's just not. And, I think we have to start looking at our politics that way, being objective instead of immediately rushing to our tribe. I constantly got, attacked when I used to go after the Democrats during COVID for things they did that were just amazing to me. Like, they were complaining about those guys that were partying at the Lake of the Ozarks, but then there was a Black Lives Matter rally. I mean, well, how ridiculous is that? You want to stay indoors, but unless it's a protest, there is utter hypocrisy, and that is on both sides. And that's why nobody trusts politics or our politicians anymore, because they're all full of crap. Every one of them. They don't believe in anything. They believe in power, and they believe in that. They believe in making money, but they don't believe in anything. They just pick a side and try to, convince you to give them more power. And they don't care. They actually were cared about getting stuff done. They sit down and listen to where most people are, where most reasonable people are, and that's in the middle of most things. Well, we'll get back to that on the next segment of the Lindsey Beckham Show. Y'all stay tuned.
.1039 WYAB.
Get ready, Louisiana! Johnny's Pizza House is turning up the heat with our sweet the swamp pizza. Packed with crawfish, shrimp, a taste of crab, andouille sausage, bell peppers, onions, jalapenos, and a blend of Cajun spices, all smothered in delicious mozzarella cheese. It's the perfect bite of the bayou and the perfect meal for any Cajun crave. Try our Cajun flip or dive into a sweet the swamp pizza bowl. A taste of Louisiana flavor is waiting on you. Let's share a slice today at Johnny's Pizza House.
Pure Air Consultants offers services on your heating and cooling system. It's time to get your heating system serviced. We offer replacement, service, maintenance agreements. It's important because if you have a gas heating system, it can produce carbon monoxide. So you want to make sure you have your system serviced and cleaned to protect your family. You want to make sure your system is safe to run. You can find us on our website at mypureairconsultants.com, mypureairconsultants.com.
Americans for Prosperity is Mississippi's and the country's leading grassroots organization dedicated to promoting economic freedom and personal liberty. Americans for Prosperity advocates for limited government, free market policies, and empowering individuals. When given freedom and opportunity, Americans are capable of extraordinary things. If you are ready to make a difference in our community and want to get involved, then visit americansforprosperity.org. Be a part of positive change at americansforprosperity.org. Paid for by Americans for Prosperity.
Doctor, the AC doctor, what's your diagnosis? My whole house was hot as a fever. Now my house is frozen, cause my air conditioning's on. Doctor, my AC's broken. Doctor, the AC doctor, heal my house, bless my soul.
The AC Doctors is your one-stop provider for air conditioning and heating installation, service, and repair. Contact us for money-saving repairs and lower energy bills.
Doctor, the AC doctor, heal my house, bless my soul.
Google the AC Doctors and get some relief today. TheACDR.com.
This is Jack Hoffman. For nearly 31 years, Tico's Steakhouse has been a staple of fine dining in Jackson, Mississippi. Dad has long since desired for me to come work alongside him. And now that I'm here, I would like to invite you to come experience our family tradition of our hospitality, sizzling steaks, and healthy poured beverages. Our dining rooms are open and we are taking reservations. Our private rooms are also available along with takeout. Call today or stop in and experience Tico's in the second generation.
Tico's Steakhouse, East County Line Road in Ridgeland, 601-956-1030.
If you're a parent or grandparent, you should know that even though Mississippi is ranked as the unhealthiest state in the country, we have the highest vaccination rate for our children and grandchildren. Many of us blindly trust the medical establishment, and now it's time to question vaccine safety. Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights is a grassroots organization working to educate the public and lawmakers about this important topic. Be informed. Go to mpvr.org. Like us on Facebook to stay up to date on the latest information. That's Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights, mpvr.org.
This Valentine's Day, be the hero without the hassle. At Green Oak, we're the Valentine's Day experts. We know exactly what she wants, and we make it easy for you to get it right. Choose from stunning hand-designed floral arrangements and gifts online at greenoakms.com or visit us in-store in Jackson next to Palm Bridges Park or in Ridgeland at the Township. Green Oak does all the work. You get all the credit. Order now at greenoakms.com and make this Valentine's Day unforgettable. Green Oak, Jackson's floral experts.
And we're back on the Lindsey Beckham Show here from lovely Florida, Mississippi on this first kind of not cold day. It's been, we've all been freezing our butts off here for the last few weeks. It feels like not as bad as what happened in North Mississippi. God bless all those folks up there. Got a lot of friends up there that I've talked to, and it's just a absolute nightmare. So I know all our prayers are with them. But here I think we're going to get up to about 70 today. So we've got a little taste of spring. I think in Mississippi, we all know what happens is we'll have this little taste of spring, and then there'll be like in March, it's like the first or second week of March, it'll start freezing, and it'll be terrible for that. And then it's over. And then we're in spring for like 3 days, and then it's 150 degrees until October. That's kind of the way I think we're all used to down here. But anyway, well, I was talking about the video or meme or whatever you want to call it that President Trump shared on Truth Social last night that depicted former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama as monkeys in a jungle with their heads superimposed on look like cartoon monkey bodies or something like that. That's caused a lot of outrage around the country here in the last few hours, where some Mississippi politicians have weighed in. Senator Roger Wicker, who's a Republican senator from Mississippi, said this is totally unacceptable. the president should take it down and apologize. And that's somebody from the president's own party actually said that about him, as well as like I said in the last segment, Senator Tim Scott, who I always say is Wayne Brady playing a senator. If you get that joke, then it's even said, he's a black senator, the only black Republican in the Senate from South Carolina, condemned it as the most racist thing he's ever seen from this White House. So there's been a lot of outrage. I mean, it seems like the Republicans are kind of running for the hills on this one. I heard Ted Cruz was boarding a plane to Mexico today. I mean, there's no ice in the forecast, but this looked like his seat was going to get, instead of cold, it was going to get very warm. So he's taken off. And so there's been a lot of backlash from this, and we'll see how that plays out. I'm sure it'll be just like any other, outrage regarding the president. It'll blow over in 24 hours. And I think that's not just him. It's kind of all of our news cycles these days. We get really mad about something for 24 hours and then nobody thinks about it ever again. Like if you tried to think about what were you outraged about 6 months ago or 7 months ago, you probably couldn't. I was thinking about this the other day, and what it was that I think people were mad about the Sydney Sweeney jeans thing. And I bet nobody, like 50% of people do not even remember that, or maybe 70%. But that's what we were mad about 6 months ago or 7 months ago. And then that's what, that's kind of what we're conditioned to do now, because now we've transitioned to this media format where it's clickbait. Everybody's heard that term. It's clickbait. What can you click on? And I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. Heck, I do it when we have a show. For this show, I promoted it like, hey, we're President Trump promotes the Obamas as two monkeys. I mean, that's clickbait. That's just, that's part of entertainment. But now we're engulfed in that world. All of us are. So people that are doing media, it's in their interest to hit these kind of stories instead of having these I guess we would say more balanced conversations, because they want to drive traffic and they've got to, because that's how they survive this business. The whole world runs on that. But that's where we are. We click on things. We want to be outraged, and then we're outraged for 24 hours, and then it's over with. Like, what was a few months ago? Cracker Barrel. I remember that. Everybody was mad about that. Does anybody remember what even happened with Cracker Barrel? Was it the logo or something like that? I just know that we were supposed to be outraged about Cracker Barrel. And it's and we live in this constant cycle of outrage, this constant cycle, but we're just mad about something. And I was thinking about that the other day, where about a time when you just weren't mad about everything, because maybe you only had you had some cable news in the 90s. You had CNN and Fox News, and you could be outraged about maybe some specific topic. I remember when I was in college, it was during the 2000 presidential election, and they were talking about these, I think it was like death panels or something. That was like, they were trying to get people outraged about that. But it was only that was like the one thing you could be outraged about, because there wasn't many news sources for you to get, or ways to get news like there are now. So it didn't seem like everybody was in a constant cycle of outrage like we are. I mean, it's got to be bad for our blood pressure. I mean, it's definitely bad for our psyche, but it's got to be bad for our health in all ways possible, that for us to just get mad about every single thing. And I don't see that trend stopping, because the people that are promoting it, they got a financial incentive to do it. And I honestly, I can't blame them. If you got a financial incentive to do something, that's part of America. It's a capitalist society. So that's not going to change. If the financial incentive's there, that's not going to change any behavior. So I don't know what we do. It's got to be on a personal level for how you're going to consume news. And I try to do that too. Like, I don't watch I try not to watch, I'll say, the major networks. Sometimes if there's like a big event or whatever, some big happening, I'll watch, turn on CNN or something. But I know everybody hates me for that. But I don't generally watch that stuff. I try to keep the news pretty balanced. I watch a lot of conservative podcasts. I actually don't really watch a whole lot of liberal ones, because there's not ones that I like, in all honesty. But I try to keep it fair and balanced, as Fox News would say. And I know it's hard for most people to do that, because everybody wants to be in their own echo chamber, because it's comfortable. It's like, I already think these things, so let me watch something that reaffirms my own beliefs, and that'll make me feel warm and fuzzy inside. But sometimes it's really good to get outside of your box and look at things and ask yourself, like, why do you believe something? Clay and I were talking a few months ago, I remember, and I said to him, I said, have you ever really thought why everybody in Mississippi is conservative, or why everybody in California is liberal? I mean, we're all human beings. So like, why do some people end up with certain political philosophies and other people end up with other ones? And why does an area become like outgrown with that philosophy? So like, if you're in California and you got like 90% of people are liberal, and Mississippi, 90% of people are conservative, like, what causes that? and obviously it's environmental influences and the way the cultural parts of each region of the country. But if you think about it that way, you could think about it like, hey, if I was born in Los Angeles, I might be a liberal, or if I was born in Alabama, I might be a conservative. And I don't know, it's just to me, it's an interesting way of thinking about how that plays into how we think about the world, specifically where we were born. Which I mean makes sense. I mean, if you were born in Iran, you would have a completely different outlook on the world than you do if you were born in Mississippi. I tell Lindsay this all the time, and she likes to argue with me about it. But I say, look, if you were born in Iran, you wouldn't be a Baptist, you'd be a Muslim. And she'll say, no, that's not true. Yeah, yeah, it is. It's not easy. But if you're born in Iran and you don't know anything about Baptists, you end up becoming a Muslim. If you're born here, you end up becoming a Baptist because that's the cultural thing here. So a lot of that, both, I mean, I guess most things about our lives, again, obviously, is based on where we're from, who our family is. Those shape our beliefs. And my point in all this is that's why I'm saying it's good to get exposed to other things that you don't know or you've never heard about, because you don't really you sometimes you want to learn what do you actually believe. Maybe there's something else out there. You're like, I'm not talking about liberal philosophies. I'm just saying something where you don't agree with a certain position that your party takes on a specific issue. This happens all the time with people, but they think they got to be so bought in that they have to agree with every little thing on their side's platform. And I don't. I probably agree with like 50% of stuff on the Democratic platform, about 50%, and most of that is healthcare. But I mean, the whole social equity stuff, the transgender, I don't believe that stuff's crazy to me. That's not where the party was 25 years ago. And just because I'm on the left doesn't mean I'm going to sit there and say, yep, you know what, I got to check the box here and believe that because that's what I've been told. That's part of it. And I'm not going to do that. And I don't think anybody should do that because I don't think anybody's beliefs aligns perfectly with how they vote. And I'll give Clay credit for this one. He always says, if somebody agrees with me enough of the time, I'll vote for them. And I think that's generally true. Like if you agree with me on most of the issues, but there's some differences that we have, that's fine. Actually, that's kind of good. At least we're not carbon copies of each other because of political party has a specific platform that we all have to say yes, 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 yes. And so I think it's good to go out there and look at other things. Don't be sucked into all this clickbait, and that's just that's what's creating a lot of the chaos in our society. And the other thing is we don't know half the time we don't know what's real anymore. Like even with this Trump Truth Social, I had to check it out. I was like, nah, that's not real. I mean, I say that about everything because I'm really skeptical about every single thing, and a lot of stuff turns out to be real. So I went and checked it. I'm like, oh wait, this thing's actually real. I was kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt until I verified it. But that's the world we live in. We don't know what to trust. And I mean that started a long time ago because mainstream media was already something we couldn't trust. If you're reading that, I read the New York Times, but I know it's full of crap. Like it's obviously biased. Like you could read it, and if anybody says, "Oh, this is not liberally biased," they're lying to you. Yes, it is. I mean, there's some things that we can look at and say, yes, that's absolutely liberally biased. There's stuff I read that say, yes, this is absolutely conservative bias. We don't have to convince ourselves that everything is fair because nothing really is fair. That's a lie too. I mean, anything you're reading has got some sort of bias one way or the other in it. That's just the nature of humans. That's the nature of institutions. It's not going to be completely just on the level. So just accept what you're reading, the viewpoints that you're getting from it, and kind of look outside the box. But I will get back to talking about all of that. And look, there's y'all's favorite person, Benny Thompson, has made a comment about President Trump. Is that a shocker? I know. I'm gonna have to screenshot. I'll send that to Clay and Lindsay. I'm sure they'll love that here. He says that he grew up in the civil rights era and he's completely disgusted. Donald Trump has spent years openly spreading hate, bigotry, and division. Well, I'll discuss that on the next segment of the Lindsey Beckham Show. Y'all stay tuned.
.1039 WYAB.
Get ready, Louisiana. Johnny's Pizza House is turning up the heat with our sweet the swamp pizza. Packed with crawfish, shrimp, a taste of crab, andouille sausage, bell peppers, onions, jalapenos, and a blend of Cajun spices, all smothered in delicious mozzarella cheese. It's the perfect bite of the bayou and the perfect meal for any Cajun crave. Try our Cajun Flint or dive into a sweet the swamp pizza bowl. A taste of Louisiana flavor is waiting on you. Let's share a slice today at Johnny's Pizza House.
Pure Air Consultants offers services on your heating and cooling system. It's time to get your heating system serviced. We offer replacement, service, maintenance agreements. It's important because if you have a gas heating system, it can produce carbon monoxide. So you want to make sure you have your system serviced and cleaned to protect your family. You want to make sure your system is safe to run. You can find us at our website at mypureairconsultants.com, mypureairconsultants.com.
Americans for Prosperity is Mississippi's and the country's leading grassroots organization dedicated to promoting economic freedom and personal liberty. Americans for Prosperity advocates for limited government, free market policies, and empowering individuals. When given freedom and opportunity, Americans are capable of extraordinary things. If you are ready to make a difference in our community and want to get involved, then visit americansforprosperity.org. Be a part of positive change at americansforprosperity.org. Paid for by Americans for Prosperity.
CBS News brief. President Trump used his social media account today to share a video that included a depiction of former President Obama and wife Michelle as apes. It was taken down amid a flood of criticism and blamed on a staffer. CBS's Nancy Cordes.
We have not heard from the Obamas. They have not weighed in with a statement. And I think that is always the dilemma when the president reposts offensive images like this. And it has happened before.
A judge set a New York State trial date of June 8th for Luigi Mangione. There's also a federal case in the killing of the United Healthcare CEO. CBS's Katrina Kaufman.
His defense attorney, Karen Agnipson, said double jeopardy is meant to protect people, and they're using it as a weapon here.
Attorney General Pam Bondi hails the arrest of a Libyan man in connection with the deadly 2012 Benghazi attack.
We will prosecute this alleged terrorist to the fullest extent of the law.
The Dow is up more than 1,000 points. CBS News Brief.
Get ready, Louisiana! Johnny's Pizza House is turning up the heat with our sweet the swamp pizza. Packed with crawfish, shrimp, a taste of crab, andouille sausage, bell peppers, onions, jalapenos, and a blend of Cajun spices, all smothered in delicious mozzarella cheese. It's the perfect bite of the bayou and the perfect meal for any Cajun crave. Try our Cajun Flint or dive into a sweet the swamp pizza bowl. A taste of Louisiana flavor is waiting on you. Let's share a slice today at Johnny's Pizza House.
Hi, Kim Wade here. Are you craving a home-cooked meal without the hassle? Come over to McBee's Bar and Grill in Ridgeland for their Blue Plate lunch specials. Served up every weekday, at McBee's it's a different entree every day. Chicken spaghetti on Mondays, beef tip Tuesday, pork chop Wednesday, spaghetti Thursday, and catfish Fridays. And McBee's Blue Plate lunch comes with 2 classic southern sides and cornbread or a roll. McBee's specials are served every weekday from 11 to 2. McBee's, buzzing the res since 1982.
When you feel like your business is drowning in paperwork and compliance issues, it's time to call Peoplease. Let Peoplease take care of the busy work so that you can save valuable time and focus on what really matters, growing your business. Peoplease is based in Ridgeland, so you're always dealing with local professionals who will actually understand your business and its needs. Join thousands of satisfied clients who trust Peoplease to simplify their employee administration. Visit peoplease.com. That's peoplease.com to learn more.
In the heart of Flora, there's a place where love, laughter, and comfort come with every cut, color, and style. At our family-owned salon, you're not just a client. You're part of the family. Come share a smile with Shelby, Henley, and Rhonda, ready to make you feel beautiful inside and out. Whether it's a fresh new look or a little time to relax, we've got the chair waiting for you. So step in and feel at home. Find us on Facebook at In Style Salon Flora.
Get ready, Jackson. On Friday, February 6th, Martin's Restaurant downtown cranks it up with Pretty Tied Up, the ultimate Guns N' Roses tribute band. Hear all the classics like Welcome to the Jungle, Sweet Child of Mine, Paradise City, and more. Played loud with full 80s rock swagger. Don't miss a night of pure Guns N' Roses energy live at Martin's Restaurant downtown in Jackson. Visit the Martin's Downtown Facebook page for ticket information.
come together.
And we're back on the Lindsey Beckham Show this Friday, where Lindsey is not here today. She's under the weather, and I am covering the show today. I'm sorry for y'all that have to listen to me, but I'm here covering. My name is Sean Yurtkaran. I own the Yurtkaran Law Firm, and I've been here on WYB for, I think it'll be 3 years next month, which I can't believe time goes by really quick when you're old, is what I've learned. Like when you're in your 20s, it feels like it moves forever. But the minute like you turn 35, I think you're 50 in 2 seconds. At least that's the way it feels like to me. But if you have any criminal or issues, or you're in a car wreck, you can call me at 601-862-1320 or reach me at onetextlaw.com, and I'll be glad to help you out. My primary focus is criminal defense. I was a Hinds County Assistant District Attorney as well as a Assistant Attorney General for about a decade. So that is where my specialty lies, and I'll be glad to help you out. And if you're out drinking this weekend, my biggest advice to you is this. Well, not advice. I don't think I'm allowed to call it legal advice on the radio, or I'll just say this. When you say you get pulled over by the cops and you say, I only had 2 drinks, they know you're full of it. And you need to think about that, because if you're the kind of person that goes to the bar, have you ever just had 2 drinks at the bar and left? Maybe you have, and you're a better man than me. That's great. I'm going to be fully transparent here. Is I've never gone to a single bar in my life, unless maybe I was in a rush or at the airport and had 2 drinks. Like it's usually a good 5. So the cops know this too. They're not dumb. They're out there working hard, and when they pull you over and you say that, they're like, yeah, this guy's had a lot more than 2. And therefore, there you go. You've got a new snappy, new clean, fun DUI and SR22 insurance. So just watch out for that. But if you do get arrested for a DUI, that is something I do a heck of a lot here. Give me a call, or again, check me out at onetextlaw.com. Well, we were talking about the True Social post, that President Trump put up about the Obamas depicted as monkeys as part of some Lion King skit or whatnot. And then I kind of delved me into, our media coverage of things, and how we just stay in our own little echo chamber because we want to be reaffirmed of our beliefs, and how the media acknowledges that, and they reaffirm us. And it's a disservice to the public. So at the break, I kind of just did a Google search looking at this story. And so if you click on like the New York Times, the first few stories are about the Trump True Social Obama monkey post. I mean, it's got it like listed. It's like overkill. If you flip over to Fox News, there's not a single story. Now, I'm not even jumping on Fox News here at all. Actually, I'm jumping on both of them. And what I'll say is this. I think, how about each one of you just have one story about it and report the news? Like the New York Times is trying to do overkill because they're like, hey, I got you now. So there's 3 stories in a row. I think one of them's titled white supremacist or something like that. And then Fox News has 0 stories. And that's our media. It doesn't cover anything. Or if it covers something, it covers something completely biased to its own side. And then if it doesn't like what the news is, it doesn't cover it all, like Fox News is doing here. Now, don't get me wrong, the New York Times is guilty of doing the same thing on the flip side. I mean, I'll give the Hunter Biden laptop story. The New York Post is the one that reported that. The Times did it initially. Everybody thought that was Russian disinformation. So this is what we're getting. We're getting basically lies and biased coverage by everybody, depending on what you want to believe. And it's pitting the American people against each other, and it's making them not informed about what's going on. And that's a shame. And I just personally, I don't want to live in a bubble, and think all the things that I think are true, because that's not the way the world works. The world does not agree with you all the time. It just doesn't. And that's not going to happen. Last night, my uncle came in town. He's a truck driver, been driving trucks for about 30 years. My mom's much younger brother. My mom recently passed away in November, and I hadn't seen my uncle in a while. And he had a route to Canton, dropping off stuff to Nissan. And he's about, I guess he would have been close to 16, 17 years younger than my mother. And he came down here, and Lindsey met us over at Railroad Pizza. Great place, by the way, here in Florida. And he's a huge Trump supporter. Obviously, he loves me and him always just razz each other back and forth, but in good fun. But he loves Donald Trump, and obviously Lindsey, voted for him too. And of course, I did not. But here I was thinking, here we are, my girlfriend, there's my uncle, and we all have different political beliefs. And at the end of the day, that's America, and we're gonna have to just deal with that one day. That realize that like people that voted for Kamala Harris are related to you, and you just have to deal with it. And you can't think everybody's just crazy because it's just because they think because then they also think you're crazy. It's just not this, I don't know. I guess the way I look at it too is like I don't always think I'm right about every subject, though I think probably Lindsay's going to text me in a minute and disagree with that. I recognize that I can get things wrong quite a lot, mess things up, and that's just again that's part of this life this life cycle. We were not always right. Somebody might have a better point of view than me, and they may be on the right, and they may like Donald Trump. I was telling Clay the other day that I extremely dislike President Trump's domestic policy. I pretty much hate everything about it, especially the immigration portion. But that being said, I think he's a great foreign policy president. I've been very happy with the results of that. Actually, I think he's one of the better ones we've had since World War II. And the issue that I have is that, if you're on the left, you can't say that. You can't say, hey, this stuff with Iran really kind of worked out. He did a pretty good job there. I mean, they're falling apart. You can't say that. You can't say that the Greenland idea you can't say that's probably not a bad idea. I mean, it sounded harsh the way he comes across, but in the end, it was better than China or Russia getting their influence there. Same thing with Venezuela. Like I got up that morning, I did like a Toyota jump. I was like, that I've been waiting for somebody to do that for a long time. And but if you're on the left, you can't agree with that because that's congratulating President Trump. That takes me back to Barack Obama, 2011, the mission to kill Osama bin Laden. I had so many friends on the right that were like, "Oh man, he didn't really do anything." I'm like, "Can we just say it was good that Osama bin Laden's dead? Like that's good for everybody." And we're incapable of doing that anymore. We're coming to the point where I've actually seen this, and this happens in every administration, where people are rooting against the economy right now on the left. They're like, "Man, I hope I go broke." I'm like, "Really? Like you want the economy to do bad because you just don't like President Trump?" Like I see, look, I want to make I want to make money. So I'm a capitalist. Whoever's president, that's fine, but I don't want to be broke. And I got friends of mine on the left that are like, man, just really like, oh man, here we go. Look at it. I mean, the job numbers, I got some text from my friend this morning about the job numbers are down. And I'm like, he's like, yep, there we go. I'm like, you're actively rooting for that. And then when a Democrat's president, it's the same thing. I got friends on the right. They're like, oh man, this is really bad. Things are going bad. And I always think to myself, what do you get at the end of the day when you hope for a bad economy or a bad standard of living? You obviously don't get a nicer car or a nicer house or, nicer things or, a bigger 401k or whatever. You just get to say you were right. Okay, well, that in $1.50 will get you a cup of coffee and a ticket on the train uptown. I mean, that's insane. Like, so I get to say, oh yeah, my philosophy was better than yours, but I'm still broke. I'm not willing to go there. Look, if the economy does really well, I'm going to be happy. If all of us make more money, I'm going to be happy. I'm not going to knock that at all. I'm not rooting for people to do bad. I'm not rooting against the country. I think that's stupid. I think people do it all the time. I think if a Democrat's elected in 2028, you'll see plenty of Republicans rooting against the economy, rooting against the country, and that's what we've been conditioned to do: root against each other. Like at the end of the day, not realizing this affects everybody. So because you just want to be right. You want your political philosophy to be right so badly that you can't acknowledge anything good that's happening, like anything good. Again, I'm going to use my Venezuela example. It is a good thing to get rid of Maduro. Like there is nothing bad about that. And it's insane for people to think that. It's not bad. It was a good thing to do. It was. Killing Osama bin Laden was a good thing. And everybody should have said, thank you, President Obama, for ordering that. Thank you to the SEAL teams for what they did. They get the most credit, obviously. I'm a military guy myself. But we can't do that. And especially now, that was 2011. Now we really can't do that. We can't get out there right now and say, you know what, President Trump, I really don't like you, but that was some good stuff. I really enjoy that you got Maduro. I really like what you've done in Iran. I really like that you're telling NATO that, hey, you guys need to pay now. We've been paying so you can have this European utopia since the end of World War II, and we're kind of sick of it. You know what? He's not wrong about that. He's not. That's all true. I was telling, I think Clay and Lindsay, I went to small roundtable discussion with Joe Scarborough about, I guess, about 12 years ago, before Donald Trump was on the scene as a political candidate. And Scarborough was at the small, like, there was like 20 of us at the University of Alabama. A friend of mine who was in the poli-sci department invited me there. We were talking to him, and he said, and I wrote it down, I kept the quote. He said, Europe has been on a vacation from history since 1945. Guess what? That's the same thing President Trump has said to NATO. That's the same thing. Like, that's what Scarborough is saying, is that Europe has got off lightly. They've been able to have, like, basically no military because the United States has funded their defense for over 70 something years. And those are all the same sentiments that President Trump has echoed. And, in 2014, I agreed with Scarborough when he said that. And I agreed with now with President Trump, he's doing the same thing. But now if you turn on Morning Joe Scarborough is going to be like, oh, this is crazy. I can't believe he talked to NATO that way. Well, I was in a little group, Joe, where you talked to me that way and 20 other guys. So, I mean, and that's just where we're gone. And really what it's become is it's just disingenuous because it's just like when I was telling some friends were bringing up I guess it was some police officers were getting beat in New York and Mondami didn't, he talked to the attacker or something. And it was Scott Jennings railing about that. And I was like, oh, really? I said, he hasn't said anything about the pardoned guys that beat the cops on J6. That's disingenuous too. If we're not going to admit that, that was bad. We can't admit that. I mean, it's the same thing as Scarborough not admitting that, he was for what Trump's for now. So anyway, that's my rant about how ridiculous of a people we've become, and that we just don't take ourselves seriously anymore. We don't stick to what we've said. It just matters who's in control and who's in power, and then we'll go that way. And that is really unfortunate, and I hate what that spells for the future. But I will finish this up. I know y'all are sick and tired of me on the last segment of the Lindsey Beckham Show. Thanks. And we're back on the, Lindsey Beckham Show today. She's not here today. As I stated before, she is a bit under the weather. So I am talking about the stuff about, I don't know, something about President Trump, right? Oh, yeah, it's that meme. Anyway, I'm kidding. It seems like that's been the President Trump and something he does as a topic of every show, every media outlet for the last decade. So if anybody's listening, we were talking about or I was talking about the memes that were President Trump superimposed, or somebody did, Michelle Obama and Barack Obama's heads on monkeys, and everybody's outraged. And it's the latest stream in outrage culture. And by Sunday, none of us will remember, and we'll be talking about the Super Bowl. So we can be mad for today. Everybody get mad for a little while, go home, have a Coke and a smile. And if you're old like me, you remember that phrase and what it means. But to follow up on everything, that is just, my view on all of this is that everybody's full of crap, both sides, and everybody is essentially lying to you to push their own narrative. They don't believe in anything they're saying, not one thing. They're doing it whether to, exchange for power. They don't care. That's why they're so easily could flip positions, because they don't care. They don't in their heart believe in anything. Like if you go to the polls and you vote for someone, you think they believe what you believe, you're fooling yourself, because that's not true. Like, they don't. They're doing it because they want some power, and that's fine. And being around politics as long as I have, I worked on the on the Clinton Gore campaign as a volunteer in the summer of 2000, right after I graduated college. I've been around it quite a while. And even before that, I worked as a legislative aide when I was in college at the Ohio General Assembly, which is like the Ohio State House, and like with our capital here. So I've been around it for a long time. And what I've learned is that all of them are complete liars. And like, that's what it is. And it's gotten worse now. In the 90s, it was bad, but now it's like really bad. Like, they're just doing things for power. I read Robert Gates, a former defense secretary's book years ago, and he said that you'd talk to a Democratic or Republican congressman and they'd seem pretty cool and that things were going to work out, and the minute like CNN or Fox News showed up with cameras in the Capitol hallways, it'd be like wolves howling at the moon, because they just got to put on this show for the public, and we're allowing them to do that. We're being taken by them. So don't be taken by them, and just forget about what they're saying and seek your own truth. Well, anyway, Lindsey will be back on Monday, and I was good talking to y'all this Friday. Have a great weekend. Bye.